Dear students, today we are going to discuss another concept of economics, that is demand. In layman's language, there are three words which are used interchangeably. That is desire, want, and demand. But when we talk about these three words in economics, these three words have three different meanings. A desire means simply a wishful imagination. Wishful imagination. जब हम डिजायर की बात करेंगे तो डिजायर हम सिंपली कह सकते हैं कोई वो ख्वाहिश यानी जिसको तमन्ना बोलते हैं to have anything. For example, a boy wants to have a multi-color bucket. A girl wants to have diamond earrings. Mere having the desire is not a demand. Once you have enough money to purchase this, that means once you have desire in your mind and you are able to pay, then this becomes your want. Then we can say want is desire plus ability to pay. Now you have money, you are not purchasing the good, but once you are prepared to purchase this good, now you show your willingness to pay, then this desire will become the demand. Then demand means having a desire plus ability to pay plus willingness to pay. Only we can call it a demand. Once you have a desire in your mind, once you have the money in your pocket and you are willing to spend that very money, then your desire will become the want, this demand. Then we can say desire, a wishful imagination, want, desire plus ability to pay, and demand means ability to pay plus willingness to pay. Now in simple terms, what does demand mean? I will give you one definition, which definition will cover various concepts related to the demand. When we talk about the demand, we say the quantities of a commodity which the consumer is able and willing to buy at different possible prices in the market in a given time is called demand. Simple definition. The quantities of a commodity which the consumer is able and willing to buy. That means he or she should have ability to pay and willingness to pay at different possible prices corresponding to various prices in the market. That means किसी भी जगह there should be a place in a given time is necessary is called demand. उसी को हम डिमांड कहते हैं. किसी चीज की वो मकदार जो कोई खरीदने वाला खरीदने के लिए तैयार हो और उसमें खरीदने की सकत हो, यानी उसके पास उतना पैसा हो कि वो खरीद सके. कोई बंदा बाहर जाता है, दुकान में देख लेता है कि मैं ये जैकेट ले लूं, लेकिन पैसे खर्च करने के लिए वो तैयार नहीं होता, उसको डिमांड नहीं करेंगे. कोई बंदा जाता है, वो कहता है कि मैं जैकेट खरीद लूं, उसको चाहत होती है लेकिन उसके जेब में पैसा नहीं होता है, तो उसको भी हम डिमांड नहीं करेंगे जब तक तीन चीजें ना मिल जाए: डिजायर, एबिलिटी टू पे एंड विलिंगनेस टू पे. In other words, we can say the quantities of a commodity which are purchased by the consumer at different possible prices. किसी चीज की वो मकदार जो हम खरीद लेते हैं एक्चुअली मार्केट से, उसको हम कहते हैं डिमांड, और which we are going to purchase, we are willing to purchase, उसको हम डिमांड कहते हैं. Now, in this definition, I will give you a solution of different other terms. For example, I used here the article the. The quantities of a commodity purchased by the consumer, then it is demand. But if I write here the quantities of a commodity which a consumer, that means which are purchased by a single consumer, then the quantities of a commodity which a consumer is willing to buy at different possible prices in the market in a given time is called. अब ये ए आर्टिकल ए यूज करने से डिमांड नहीं रह गई, इसको हम कह सकते हैं इंडिविजुअल डिमांड. Individual demand. That means the demand of a consumer. For example, Nazir's demand. For example, Sita's demand. For example, A is a demand, B is a demand, then it is individual demand. In the same definition, if we write the same definition in this way, the quantities of a commodity which all the consumers of that commodity, the quantities of a commodity which all the consumers of that commodity, इसके बदले लिखेंगे R, or able and willing to buy at different possible prices in the market in a given time, it is called not individual demand now, because there is all the consumers, then it may be called market demand. तो इसको हम मार्केट डिमांड कह सकते हैं. आपको ज्यादा याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है, एक डेफिनेशन याद रखिए, यही डेफिनेशन. द क्वांटिटीज ऑफ अ कमोडिटी which the consumer, मैंने बोला था पहले, जब हम इसको a consumer करेंगे तो इंडिविजुअल डिमांड बन जाएगी, जब हम all the consumers of that commodity कर देंगे तो मार्केट डिमांड बन जाएगी. इस तरीके से एक डेफिनेशन को याद करने से आप बहुत सारे सवालों का जवाब दे सकते हो. Now if we write the same definition in this manner, the quantities of a commodity or the quantity of a commodity, the quantity of a commodity which the consumer is able and willing to buy, not at different possible prices, but we can write like this, at a particular price. Particular price, then it will not become demand, then we call it in economics, it is called quantity demand. तो हम इसको क्या कहेंगे? There is a difference between demand and quantity demand. Demand means the quantities purchased against various prices, and the quantity demanded means the specific quantity purchased against a specific price. Now I will sum up my lecture. We are about to talk about the demand. Demand means the quantity of a commodity or the quantities of a commodity purchased against various prices in the market in a given time. If the same is done by an individual consumer, then it is individual demand. If the same is done by all the consumers, then it is market demand. But if we purchase a specific quantity at a specific price, that is called a quantity demand. This was the meaning of demand and different terms related to demand. Now we will move towards another topic. There are various determinants which influence the demand of a consumer. We call that demand function. Then what are the determinants? What are the various determinants of demand? What are the various determinants of demand? Determinants of demand. कौन से वो फैक्टर्स हैं जो हमारी डिमांड को इफेक्ट करते हैं? कभी हम इसका ज्यादा परचेज करते हैं, कभी कम परचेज करते हैं. व्हाट आर दीज डिफरेंट फैक्टर्स? द फर्स्ट फैक्टर इज प्राइस ऑफ द कमोडिटी. कमोडिटी, इट इज द ओन प्राइस. जो भी हम चीज खरीद रहे हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल वी आर परचेजिंग द प्रोडक्ट X, देन इट इज द PX. एक चीज हम खरीद रहे हैं X, पहला जो फैक्टर इस पे इन्फ्लुएंस करता है वो इसी चीज का प्राइस है. Other things remaining the same if the surroundings are same. When price increases, the demand decreases. When price decreases, the demand increases. Then we can say there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. That will be discussed in the next video when we talk about the law of demand. तो आपको खाली ये याद रखना है, जब किसी भी चीज की डिमांड बढ़ जाता है, प्राइस बढ़ जाता है, तो उसकी डिमांड कम होती है. जब प्राइस कम होता है तो उसकी डिमांड बढ़ जाती है. Now, the second factor which influences the demand is price of a related goods. Price of related goods. That means PY. Price of other goods. Various goods are related in various ways. The related goods are those goods where the demand of one is influenced by the change in price of other. यानी एक चीज की हम बात कर रहे हैं, उसकी डिमांड पे जो असर होता है वो दूसरी चीज की प्राइस से होता है. As per this relation, we may say the demand goods are related like this: substitutes or substitute goods and complementary goods. Substitute goods and complementary goods. Now what is these substitute goods? अब हम substitute किसको हम कहेंगे? Substitute goods are those goods which are used with equal ease and satisfaction for one another. जिसको हम एक दूसरे के एवज आसानी के साथ इस्तेमाल में कर सकते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आप लिख रहे हो, आपके हाथ में रेनॉल्ड्स का पेन है और दूसरे के हाथ में टुडेज का पेन है. हम रेनॉल्ड्स वाले का टुडेज के देंगे और टुडेज वाले का रेनॉल्ड्स वाले को दे देंगे. आप बाहर जा रहे हैं, आपको चाय पीनी है, कॉफी भी है, टी भी है, तो टी और कॉफी हम सब्स्टिट्यूट यहां पर बांध सकते हैं. These are called substitute goods because these goods are used for one another. Now the question is, how the price of substitutes influence the demand of a product? That is how the price of Y influence the demand of X. This is X, this is Y. When the price of Y, that means when the PY falls, the demand of X will fall because Y will become cheaper. People will prefer Y as compared to X. जब कोका कोला की डिमांड की बात हम करते हैं, अगर माउंटेन ड्यू सस्ती हो गई तो कोका कोला की डिमांड घट जाएगी. इसी तरीके से if the price of Y increases, अब अगर माउंटेन ड्यू महंगा हो गया, उसका प्राइस बढ़ गया, the price of the demand of this X remaining the same, the demand of X will increase. Now the X will be relatively cheaper to the compared to the Y. इस तरीके से हम कह सकते हैं कि जब सब्स्टिट्यूट प्राइस कम होता है तो उस चीज की डिमांड कम होती है जो इन क्वेश्चन होता है. जब सब्स्टिट्यूट प्राइस बढ़ जाता है तो उस चीज की डिमांड बढ़ जाती है जो इन क्वेश्चन होता है. दिस इज द सब्स्टिट्यूशन इफेक्ट. अब ये बात होती है कंप्लीमेंट्री. व्हाट इज अ कंप्लीमेंट्री गुड? Complementary goods are those goods which complete the demand of one another. Complementary goods are those goods which are jointly consumed for satisfying a particular amount. For example, car and petrol. For example, pen and ink. Whenever the price of car increases, the demand for petrol will decrease. But when car is dear, people will not prefer to purchase car, they will purchase less petrol. Whenever the price of car falls, the price of petrol will increase. Suppose our X is petrol. That means when the complementary price falls, demand of the X will increase. When the price of this complementary good will increase, its demand will decrease. In other words, we can say there is a direct, indirect relationship or opposite relationship between the price, the demand of the commodity and the demand of the commodity and the price of complementary goods. And this is how the price of related goods influence the demand. Now, the third factor which influence the demand is the important factor, that is income of the consumer. If there is change in the income of the consumer, we can say twice. If there is a change in the income of the consumer, there is change in the demand of the product. Now, how it affects? Here, we have kept in mind in which category the good X comes. Because when we talk about the income as a base, then we can say a good may be inferior for the consumer or it will be a normal or superior for the consumer. Then we can say normal good or we may call inferior good. First, we should understand what is these normal good or superior goods. Normal goods or superior goods are those goods in which the price effect is negative and the income effect is positive. It means that as the income of the consumer increases, the demand for such goods increases. As the income of the consumer decreases, the demand of the product also decreases. There is a positive relation between income and the demand of the product. For example, meat. जब भी किसी बंदे की इनकम बढ़ जाती है तो वो पहले क्या करता है, वो कंजप्शन ऑफ मीट इंक्रीज करता है, कंजप्शन ऑफ चीज इंक्रीज करता है, कंजप्शन ऑफ चिकन इंक्रीज करता है, कंजप्शन ऑफ हाई क्वालिटी ऑफ राइस इंक्रीज करता है. He may discard certain qualities of rice, he may discard certain vegetables. Then we can say for the consumer the good is a superior. If the X is a superior good, then the demand of the X will increase with the increase in income and it will decrease with the decrease in income. On the other hand, if the good is now inferior good, ये inferior क्या होता है? Inferior goods are those goods in which the income effect is negative and price effect is positive. यानी जब आमदनी बढ़ जाती है तो इसकी डिमांड कम हो जाएगी, जब आमदनी घट जाएगी तो इसकी डिमांड बढ़ जाती है. क्यों? क्योंकि जब आमदनी बढ़ जाती है तो हमें कुछ चीजें ऐसी लगती है जिनको हम हकीर मानते हैं, इंफीरियर मानते हैं, हम उनको कंज्यूम करना पसंद नहीं. If our X is now an inferior good, then the demand will decrease with the increase in income and the demand will increase with the decrease in income. For example, बाजरे की हम बात करते हैं जिसको हम जाव कहते हैं, या लो क्वालिटी राइस हम लेते हैं. कुछ ऐसे वेजिटेबल्स होते हैं जिनको हम पहले खाते थे जब हमारी आमदनी कम हुआ करती थी. जब आमदनी बढ़ जाती है तो we move towards the meat consumption, other things. तो ये भी हमें ख्याल रखना है कि हमारा जो चीज है क्या वो नॉर्मल गुड है या वो इंफीरियर गुड है. This also influences the demand of a commodity. And the fourth factor which influences the demand of a commodity, that is the taste and the preference. Taste and preference of the consumer. Preference क्या है? In other words, we can say the fashion. The goods which are in fashion are always having high demand. Whenever the good goes out of the fashion, the demand of the commodity decreases. Simply, when the taste is in favor of the commodity, जब मैं छोटा था तो उस वक्त हमारे यहाँ लोग अक्सर बिग बबल का च्युइंगम यूज करते थे. लेकिन अब आज जब हम देखेंगे तो आज सेंटर फ्रूट और सेंटर फ्रेश का जमाना है. Obviously, it is the taste against the big bubble, and it is the taste in favor of the centrifuge and centrifuge. This is another factor. The another factor which influences the demand is expectations. Expectations. What will happen to the price of the commodity in the near future? आने वाले वक्त में ये जो चीज हम खरीद रहे हैं इसकी कीमत पे क्या असर पड़ने वाला है? If we are expecting that the price in near future will increase, then our demand at the present will increase. If we expect that the price in near future will fall, then the demand of the commodity at present will decrease. क्यों? क्योंकि जब हमें लगता है कि आगे प्राइस बढ़ जाएगा, there will be shortage of the good, तो हम आज ही इसकी खरीदारी करते हैं। जब हमें पता चलता है कि आगे आने वाले वक्त में इसका कीमत कम होने वाला है, तो हम कहते हैं आज नहीं खरीदेंगे तो उसी वक्त खरीदेंगे। This is the another factor. The another factor is weather and climate. When there is change in weather, there is change in a demand. In summer, there is more demand for cotton clothes, there is more demand for ice creams. In winter, there is more demand for woolen clothes. There is more demand for blankets. The another factor which influences the demand of a commodity is the population. Whenever there is change in the population, it also influences the demand. Increase in population means the large size of the consumer group. That means increase in demand. In the same way, the another factor is distribution of income. As long as the distribution of income is unfair, unequitable, then there will be low demand. Once the distribution becomes fair and fair, equitable distribution, then the demand of the product increases. At the last, I will tell you that there are various determinants, but the most important determinants which have a large, great influence on the demand, that is the price of the product, that is the price of the related goods, that is the income of the consumer. These are termed as quantitative determinants. There are taste and preference also. I hope that you will get benefited from this lecture. For your suggestions, please drop your comments. Thank you.